Hello everyone, welcome back to Aussie Starcraft, where we've been casting some games from the Kaspersky Arena. It is round 3 of the December Arena, and in the bottom left hand corner is our red Protoss player. It is MouzMana. In the top left hand corner as our, I'm going to say Aqua Terran, as our Aqua Terran is Millennium's ForGG. ForGG is certainly the king of the hill thus far, having won the first and second series quite convincingly, and now showing his dominance here in series number 3 as Mana put on an impressive push last game, but ForGG managing to cling to the ropes and carry through for yet another win. Just looking in excellent form here in the Kaspersky Arena. So guys, I've been doing a heck of a lot of casting in the last 24 hours, so this cast might be a little bit more of a casual cast, been shouting at my microphone quite a bit, and just want to take things just a little bit easier, so enjoy a nice casual cast on your morning StarCraft. Now, while we wait for this game to get underway, the map is of course Frost, which is a fairly large map. Players can easily take 2 or 3 bases, and while still remaining in their quarter of the map. We do have spawns above and below on the left hand side of the map, so it's actually a bit interesting. Cross spawn or side to side is most frequent matchups in this map, but the top to bottom does introduce the interesting dynamic of quite a few choke points with very large travel distances, so ground armies need to be very careful in this map to not get caught out of position, particularly when Terran players choose to mech and that sort of thing. It's quite difficult, particularly if your army is caught on the wrong side of any of these chasms. You can find yourself losing bases and games quite quickly. Men are going to be scouting out nice and early. Sees the barracks and orbital command going up for ForGG, but no real surprises there. Going to be a Reaper on the way as well. This gas opening, pretty much the most popular Terran opening currently. Most players electing to go for that Reaper and the scouting options that it brings to the game. Have Mana actually going for an expansion straight away, and we saw this out of Mana last game and used it to gain access to some tech options that he probably shouldn't have had until much later in the game. So Mana showing us some neat Protoss builds. We'll see just how he chooses to execute those this time. But particularly Mana showing us that the Mothership Core certainly gives you a few extra options for early expands as Protoss, and we have seen Protoss expanding much quicker in Heart of the Swarm than we have in Wings of Liberty, but the expansions from Mana against Terran players seem even quicker and more aggressive than perhaps usual. So this Reaper actually going to do a bit of damage here, as the Mothership Core was slightly delayed this game. On the previous map, the Mothership Core actually got out before the Reaper made its way into the base, so the Zealot here tanking a lot of the damage from this Reaper, as the Mothership Core now moves into position to force it off. First Stalker also on the way is going to put a bit of a end to this Reaper harass. The Reaper, though, definitely still useful for scouting, and that's where most of its inherent value actually lies, in becoming aware of what your opponent's actually up to. ForGG throwing down an expansion of his own, actually going for a very quick +1 weapons timing here. So curious to see if we're going to see a nice neat Terran timing attack off 2 bases. Actually have a Stargate going down for Mana, and this is a bit of a different tech choice to last game. We saw last game some quick Colossi out of Mana. And if you didn't see that game and you're a Protoss player, by all means go and check it out. It was quite a tidily executed Colossus timing, and Mana, it was only for the fact that ForGG's such a skilled opponent that he was able to hold the push off. Almost took him by surprise, but narrowly able to cling to life and end up sealing out the game. But it was a very, very tidy timing attack. I think he could probably execute it on ladder to great effect, particularly against other Terran players that, well, let's say aren't Grandmaster Terran players like ForGG. ForGG going back to his 3 barracks that we saw last time, along with a factory. The factory's timing is a lot more delayed this game than what we saw last game. The +1 weapons almost finished up. Stim pack, however, is going to be much later. No tech lab for that stim pack's going to mean that it's going to be quite delayed. I imagine we'll see those going down now. Indeed, it's dual tech labs, so the Marauder's obviously very useful against Terran, and the combat shield and stim pack timings we'll see fairly close together. ForGG actually throwing down a missile turret, which is not a bad choice, particularly given that we have this Oracle streaming out across the map, and if Mana's not careful, it is going to walk straight into that missile turret. ForGG, having seen it, is going to spread out these Marines, and he'll be wanting to get them in a position to defend against any further Oracle harass, but Oracle able to eliminate workers at a rate of knots if he can get anywhere near the worker line, that is. ForGG very active with these units, and ensuring that that Oracle isn't able to have its way with the poor SCVs. So if you leave an Oracle uncontested in your mineral line, chances are the next time you look back at your mineral line, everything will have died horribly. The Pulsar being very effective. There was a Widow Mine produced, but unfortunately for ForGG, bringing it down to his other base, Mana's actually able to find an avenue here and grab 4 kills very speedily, and that's the danger of the Oracle. Actually grabbing a medevac here. A lot of players will choose to grab a Viking just to end the harass, but ForGG obviously feeling confident in the number of Marines that he's already got on the field. This Oracle is going to swing back. We've actually got Mana following this up with some High Templar, so Templar archives are on the field, Storm being chrono boosted out. And it was a great choice, particularly with the number of Marines on the field, even with the potential to produce Marauders. There's been no inclination that ForGG intends to build any, or at least not until he sees the Storms or the High Templar or the High Templar or the Colossus was the trigger in the last game. As soon as he saw the Colossus, he did produce quite a lot of Marauders. But this poor drop could find itself in dire straits if it sweeps into a feedback. It could very well suffer here. Have a photon cannon coming up just in time, but nice hit from that Widow Mine, actually killing a few workers there. Trying to drop here in the main, but another photon cannon in the main is going to make that drop similarly fruitless. Marine's going to try and evacuate here, but we have the medevac, or actually the mine's still in place. They're able to do significant damage to the mothership core. The mothership just trying to ensure that these units do not make it out of here. Stalkers on either side are going to pick that off, and if we check out the units lost tab, it is 925 to 300, so we have Mana able to clean up that drop quite nicely, and a significant amount of High Templars on the field currently. Already have, I believe it was 6 High Templar. And indeed, yes, 6 High Templar and an Oracle and a mothership. So interesting composition here. No, not a whole lot of actual damage dealing units, as opposed to the 22 Marines and 2 Marauders that we see barreling down on the base. But I imagine another warp in will fix that. We see Mana contemplating moving out with this Oracle, but in fact looks like Mana's going to exploit the fact that the photon overcharge is on cooldown, and Mana trying to hold here with a very small group of units. ForGG actually choosing to land his factory here to try and well, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what he is trying to do with that factory there. It's actually creating a choke for his own units to run through. So a bit of an interesting choice with that factory, but these Storms certainly finding their markers. ForGG actually going to try and build some Widow Mines, it would appear, in the middle of Mana's base, but that's certainly not working. Oh, the poor Archon. Does the Archon get picked off? No, the Marines instead eat a fatty Storm. So units lost 2,500 to 900. Some great Storms out of Mana, able to hold off what was looking like a terrifying Terran push. These 5 medevacs have taken a little bit of damage, but gonna be strong. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of energy left to heal. So we'll be there's almost more medevacs than there are ground units. 7 medevacs now, and 4 Marauders and 4 Marines. So why not? A few more reinforcements coming down. Mana just a little bit early on this expansion. The Terran army still here and in position to stim back and forward. Probably want to be a little bit careful though. Mana here kiting back and forth, losing a few zealots to the Marauders slow. But Mana for the most part just trying to buy time for these High Templar to get the energy they need. Another 2 medevacs here, so we're up to a phenomenal 9 medevacs. There's very literally almost more medevacs than there are ground units, which is extraordinarily surprising, but it is starting to make these ground units for ForGG much more cost effective. We can see the tab swung almost back into favour of ForGG, whereas Mana was previously leading by about 2,000 additional units lost, or units killed. +3 weapons on the way now. Going to make these Marines and Marauders just that little bit more devastating. The Immortal able to say hello to that poor Marauder, and I gotta say, I love the HOTS death animations. They're just continually improving those from game to game, and that's much super tongue-tied. That's very much what I'd imagine would happen if I walked up a ramp and came face to face with an Immortal. It's like dodging a car in traffic and then running in front of a bus. So Mana here able to throw down his third base again, but ForGG actually slipping a big group of Marines and Marauders behind the back of Mana's base, actually forcing Mana to make some difficult choice here. Some nice storms going to kill a lot of those units, but it's going to allow ForGG to mop up his third base and the natural yet again. So ForGG sacrificing a lot of units here, but for the time being it is a 2 bases 2-1, and ForGG at an advantage yet again in game number 3. Looks like ForGG is going to pick off this worker, though certainly not going to want to get out of position by chasing these pylons over the other side of the map. Mana here looking like he wants to seal himself in and buy a bit of time. This force starting to... Oh, actually, no, that's not sealing in, that's opening up. Though we do need an observer for some detection sometime shortly. This Widow Mine likely going to spoil Mana's day if he's not careful. Still quite a lot of High Templar here, well 3 Templar with a lot of energy. So ForGG yet again playing the deny game on the third base, and able to kill that pylon for another 100 minerals. There's quite a heavy Marauder composition. It's quite fortuitous for ForGG that he swapped to Marauders, as the amount of storms that he was facing are quite devastating. Though these few Marauders unfortunately not going to fare too well if they run up the hill into this Archon Immortal composition. So interesting choice from Mana, going to be posturing back and forth here. Doesn't want to lose that High Templar. Unfortunately it does get sniped. Still a lot of medevacs here. Mana would really love to clean some of those up if at all possible, but unfortunately he's stuck trying to deal with the ground units. Still being very cost efficient here, but ForGG now getting his own third base up, so Mana definitely on a clock, needs to get his own up very shortly or he will be in considerable strife. Continuing to produce Immortals, we have Mana going to what looks like an Immortal Archon composition to try and deal with this, and ForGG splitting his force yet again. Nice big Doom drop, and this could well swing right into the main of Mana. Mana's going to see this as it flies over his pylon, so it should give him some time, and unfortunately for ForGG actually picking the medevacs that have sufficient energy to feed back, so these few medevacs could well take a lot of damage very quickly here. A lot of zealots already in place, and a few feedbacks thrown down ahead of time, so these units are going to decide to unload. Certainly don't want to be flying around in a contraption that could explode with them inside it. Few zealots here just going back down to the natural, but this could well get sniped as ForGG goes straight for the Nexus here. Oh no, going to go for some of the workers. This army is going to get picked off, but in doing so it's going to allow ForGG to swing back into his third base. As Mana comes barreling down the hill, there's going to be some big storms here landing on top of these Marines and Marauders and medevacs. Everything taking a lot of damage from Mana, and I feel like this may be the point Mana needs to counterattack. He cannot afford for these medevacs to recharge, and I think this is it. Mana's going to be forced to engage here, and he is in fact barreling straight down after these Marines and Marauders. A few zealots there giving their life for ire, but for the large part these Archons and Immortals doing a lot of damage here. Reinforcements still a little ways away though, and oh, nice storm there, does massive damage to the middle of ForGG's army. Mana certainly wants to be another great storm there from Mana. Mana's storm's just absolutely on fire today. landing a lot of these great storms. More High Templar reinforcements are on the way as the Protoss army barrels its way up into the Terran natural expansion. Can he make his way all the way through into the mine? If he can cut off either the third base, even SCV's being pulled now, their job almost finished, almost no workers left here. Looks like Mana may actually be able to do in game number 2. We have SCVs trying to kill High Templar. How often can you say that? But the High Templar morphing Archons now is going to allow him to clean up the SCVs. Lots of Immortals and Archons doing great splash damage to these units here. Will Mana pull back? I think it may well be time to pull back for Mana. Doesn't want to lose these last few key units. A Zealot counterattack's actually going to stop the third base from mining, and for the first time in a long time, Mana may actually be at an economic advantage now. If we check out the mining tab, indeed we find that's the case, 800 to 200. So every minute that Mana can maintain this position, it will be the better for him. He's starting to reap the benefits of having been much more cost effective in these engagements, and certainly Storm is what's done it for him. Just landed excellent storm after excellent storm, and able to finally boil through this just host of ForGG units that are just barreling down like a terrifying Terran sledgehammer. Nice storms there, few more Marauders pay the ultimate price. And ForGG going to be forced to pull back with these medevacs that are almost empty, and some of them some of them almost out. This poor medevac pilot's seen some things, but unfortunately won't be seeing anything more as a bolt of lightning from the Archon does send him back to whatever heaven Terran units go to. Mana here continuing to put on a lot of aggression. He does now have 2 mining bases to the one of ForGG. ForGG having dumped all his mules here. I can tell you that the best time in the world is if you can get a few Zealots into that expansion once those mules come down. It will cut ForGG's economy to shreds, and indeed we see 3 in there, and well executed. Mana are able to cut the economy off ForGG and bleed him dry. So what a great back and forward between ForGG and Mana. Mana are able to grab this game off our King of the Hill ForGG. So so this series now 1-all going into game number 3. So still anyone's game. Both these players need 2 more wins to seal it out. So we'll see what happens in game number 3. Hope you guys are enjoying the casts. By all means, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We'd love to see you here more frequently. We'll be casting plenty of great StarCraft 2 action over the coming days. Thanks, guys.